Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I always enjoy watching the various video images as people are coming into the call. So thank you for all of you who turn your video on. Even if you're in the car, we appreciate that. It's great to see you. So welcome to today's live coaching session. Today we're talking about the KPIs of money. So really exciting, fun topic, money of all things. So I'm excited to share this time with you. For those of you that we may not have met, my name is Wendy Forsyth. I'm the president here at Chirag Shah Coaching. Been in the real estate industry my entire career and have had the privilege of working with so many amazing real estate leaders and entrepreneurs across the country. And one of my favorite things that this career has allowed and enabled me to do is become a curator of best practices. So through my travels with working with various brokerages, various agents, various team leaders, various technology companies, one of the things that we do is pull all the best ideas and all the things that are happening that people are working on in their businesses to bring that back and share that with all of you. So today's session on KPIs of money is really an aggregate of what both Chirag and I have observed over our years in the industry of sort of a system that agents and team leaders create, connecting their production, their activities, their expenses and spend to overall their net bottom line. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we jump into that, though, I would like to hear from a couple of you about a win that you've had in your business this week. So share a win, some good news. Give me a hand if you've got a win that you would like to share with your fellow community here. I gotta find a hand, or I'm gonna start picking some people. There's gotta be some wins, guys. Tell us some good news that's happening in your business. Steve, what's happening in North Carolina? You got a win you can share with us?
Wendy, I felt the energy. I just knew you were going to call me out. I said, I feel like she's getting ready to call me. Yes, absolutely. Well, the first win here is that we have outstanding weather. I mean, just in general for North Carolinians. But from a business standpoint, let's see. Listings have been going really well. Sellers have been getting off the fence. And so we are just really excited about this spring market because we have noticed the pent up demand. And more importantly, I think sellers are also very realistic about, what the interest rate environment is, although it's not what it was and it's not terrible, but they're being very realistic. So I take that as a win.
Good. That's awesome. Those are great wins. And I like the weather. I'll take that as a win in the non-business front all the time. Anyone else experiencing that sellers are becoming more realistic? Oh, I see a hand there, Shayna.
Hi, Wendy. I think it is a good news is the uh, public's sellers market. The sellers are start um, picking up a realization that waiting around for the better market and interest rate gonna drop and whatnot is not the best game plan for them. So more inventories are 16% higher than last year about this time. So that's a good news. And for my personal business, one condo owner, they were waiting for the buyers to make more decisive purchase decision if interest rate drop, and but not going to happen because it's just because of election time and whatnot. So they committed, to do it in next to 2, 3 months, and so we're getting the house ready. So that's the good news. And like as Steve said, in this rainy Pacific Northwest, we're catching up on the last part of the rain, rain, rain. But when we have a bright sunshine, it's such a blessing, and to see the spring flowers everywhere. So
It is.
that's my take.
Thank you for sharing that. There's something about the spring ahead time change, right? That I think helps all of our energy after we've made that initial adjustment of losing an hour's sleep. We're hearing, sort of watching the market across the country, stories of, increased inventory, of seller sentiment sort of becoming a little more adjusted to what's happening in the market, as well as, buyer sentiment. One of the things that we're sharing, so with the kind of KPI money theme, is moving into these next 4 months, so April, May, June, July, like it is really time to like double down on business. The latter part of this year is very uncertain, right? We're going into an election year. We've got all kinds of macroeconomic things that we'll be facing. So as you're thinking of, ending the first quarter of 2024 and moving into the second quarter, like it is time to really like double down on your business. And that takes us into, today's coaching topic, which is KPIs of money. So I'm going to share my screen. So let me click a couple buttons here. So I'm going to run through some slides, and then we'll take a pause and talk for a little bit, and then I'll end our call with a few more slides. So you're all seeing the slides there? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this notion of KPIs. So KPIs are a notion that really comes from kind of the financial world. And KPI is an acronym that stands for Key Performance Indicator. And the notion of the KPIs of money in your business are really sort of, how do we provide certainty through measurement in our businesses? And when we think about that from a performance coaching perspective or a business coaching perspective, we really think about, when things are uncertain, that's when your energy is impacted, your motivation is impacted as a business owner, even your discipline, is impacted. So with the notion of running your business through KPIs and through measurements, it brings consistency and certainty to your business. So the big question then becomes, all right, that all sounds really good, Wendy, but how do I do that? How do I instill that into my business? How do I get certainty where I can find a comfort level, that I know I'm going to earn a certain amount of money, that I can plan towards that? And that's where we want to introduce you to the performance system that we would, call around that. And I'm using, like, I talk with my hands, so I'm drawing the circle for you that is coming directly from this screen here and this thought pattern. So when we think of how we create certainty in our business through KPIs or through measurements, we've been talking for the last few weeks together about our core four. So where does our business come from? So this is the beginning of how you start to create this system in your business for creating consistency, is knowing where your business comes from. So I know you've all gone back through 2023, you've looked at your transactions, you know where your business is coming from, you're tracking that to date for this current calendar year, so you're on top of that, right? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. There's some shaky thumbs there going up. Okay, so if you haven't done that, please, please, please start to do that. The next part of that comes to where you're spending your time. So when you know where your business is coming from, you can better direct where to spend time in your business. So this aligns to the conversations and the coaching we've been having around time blocking, around time management, around time resources. So those things are connecting. So hopefully you're starting to see the build of the system here in your business. The next layer onto that is, where do I spend my money? So when you know where your business is coming from, you can better allot how you spend your time, energy, effort, and now resources, money. So how you're spending your money in your business should be supporting where your business is coming from and driving those core 4 areas of business development and revenue generation in your business. The last layer of this system then becomes, how do I create the habits, and what habits do I need to create in order to make sure that this system in my business of bringing certainty into my business exists. So think of this sort of wheel of system of core 4, where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my money? And what habits do I need to create in order to keep the system rolling and have the system work effectively in my business? There's a saying that is often used that numbers are the language of business. And from a coaching perspective, it's one of the reasons that we lean into asking you so many questions about the numbers of your business. How many transactions? What's your, gross commission income goal? What is your average commission percentage that you charge? What are your expenses to run your business? How many contacts does it take to book a listing appointment? Like, I can go on and on and on, but there's so many conversations around numbers, because when we understand the numbers, then we can start to focus in on creating the habits, building the skills, setting up the system so that it's working to bring consistency into your business. One of the things that we asked you to do recently as an action item was to identify where you're spending money in your business and how much money it takes to run your business. This is one of those numbers that you really need to know. And we ask you to break it down to know, monthly, it costs X amount of dollars to run my business, weekly and daily. And the reason for that is so that you really do have a sense of, like, this is what it costs. We also ask you to overlap that on your personal life, because it's a holistic experience, right? In the businesses that we run, we are working to run our businesses so that we can have the life that we want to have. So knowing those costs is really important. The next layer of that is making sure that those costs are aligned with where your business comes from. So I'm going to pop out of the screen share for a second and pause here to talk a little bit about this, because I would love to hear from some of you how you align with where you spend money in your business, and that connecting to where you drive your business from, or your core 4. So we want to get some like actual examples from you. So let me click a couple buttons here. Okay, so who wants to share an example? How do you make a decision in your business around spending money and aligning with where your business comes from?
So Wendy,
Yeah.
did somebody else speak first?
No, Margie, go ahead.
Sorry. So I tend to, when I have repeat customers or referrals, those are the people I tend to spend money on with things as gifts or events.
Awesome.
That's, you know, I don't know, maybe that's just, sometimes I think it's, am I thinking too much about the money? But those are the people that I always look in my pipeline to have my basis for my years to come.
Yeah, I think that that's a great example. So when you know that a core, one of your core 4 is past clients, is from your sphere of influence, then spending money on events where you're getting to interact with them absolutely makes sense. That would be in alignment with where your business comes from. Anyone else have an example? Cherish, what about you? How do you, it's like you don't want to make eye contact across the screen, right?
Totally. Yeah. Then I'll be called on. Well, actually, I was just thinking, I'm trying new things this year. And so there's a few, not unlike spending money on events, and whatnot for folks who have been repeat clients and or who have been referral partners. That is something new that I'm doing this year. And giving that a shot in a whirl, but I'm also in like need to grow my business phase. And so it's increasing the number of contacts that I'm face to face with. And so I've started a parent and kid meetup group a year and a half ago, and it's actually finally getting traction. It's like things that just take a long time. And that's like a very low cost, minimal cost. It's a little bit of time. Otherwise, open houses and whatnot. So, I'm not sure if that's answering your question
No,
directly.
I think that there was, so that, let's take one of the things you said about like referrals, right? So
Yep.
that that referrals from like other agents, particularly within the Compass system, right?
Well, there's two. So one would be agent referrals and one would be client referrals.
Yeah, so agent referral. So how do you align on agent referrals, like expenses that you would say, like, I know this is an area of my business I want to grow. Now, how do I make decisions around where I'd spend money on it?
Great question. I think I'm in the process of doing that and figuring it out. In the past year, I have sent, like, anytime that a referral is coming in, I send gifts, I write thank you cards. I do, it's like those aren't huge amounts of money, but also figuring out how it may make sense to connect with feeder markets and create a system. I was on Chirag's call with Matt Spangler and Robert yesterday, and they talked about having a plan for your referral partners and showing them exactly what you're doing with the client and inviting them into that process. That's news to me. So that seems like a really good tool to implement. As far as like cost goes, I think that just is visit those feeder market locations and make connections, take people out to lunch or coffee, whatever that is, right?
Yep. So when you think of sort of the next 90 days, right? So we're always talking in terms of like 90 days. If building one of your core four is around referrals from other agents, then you want to think about like, how am I planning my expenditures, my time, my effort, my resources around supporting that revenue line in my business? So that could be things like notes, like identifying feeder markets and outreach to agents in those feeder markets that are, can flow referrals back and forth. It could be visiting offices, right? I know agents that plan their summer vacations around visiting Compass offices in their feeder markets, because that's how they build their referral business. It could be around like larger sort of Compass events that that are going on. There are like several events that happen across the country. The largest every year, of course, is Retreat that will be coming up in the fall. But planning that expense and budgeting to attend something like Retreat flows into core four of building your Compass agent to agent, referral business. So now you can see how you would take something like that and say, that's my core four. I know I get business from there. Now, how do I align my budget and my expenses? And then how do I track? How do I track if I'm actually getting business from the money I'm spending, in these marketing efforts? So thank you, Chairs. Those are great examples. I want to touch on the open house example there, because many of you have open houses as one of your like main sources of business. So same sort of logic when you're thinking of budgeting around your open houses. It's like, what am I spending on open houses? How am I tracking those expenditures to conversion of transactions that turn into GCI in my business? When you track, then you know where you need to make adjustments and when something isn't working or when you need to add something new. When you're not tracking these KPIs or these performance indicators on your budget and your time, it's very difficult then to figure out from a strategic business perspective, where do I need to make changes? Where do I need to make improvements? What isn't working? Sometimes agents will come to me and they'll say like, I'm not making enough money. I need to make more money. I had one of these conversations yesterday, actually. And I said, well, tell me what you've been doing. And like answering that question was very challenging for this individual. They were like, well, I don't know. I don't know. So that when we had to really peel that back, right? Because the measurement wasn't in place in the business. So it's hard to know where to start when we don't know where we're currently at. So that's that kind of circle there. So let me pop back into our screen share for a second. We'll continue on the conversation. So we were talking about sort of the alignment then of understanding your daily, weekly, monthly expenditures and how that sort of goes into your circle or your system. So the next step with that is what we were just talking about with aligning priorities. So when you can align your priorities around that, then you can decide like where to spend your money. So Wendy, I see your question popped up here. So how much should we budget for each category where our clients come from? Great question. And I hate to be like that, like hook into next week, but that's what we're going to talk about in next week's live coaching session. So we're going to talk about sort of general, rules of thumbs and amounts that we see agents budget for different parts of their business to try to give you, a sort of framework to work from on that. The complicated answer to that question, though, is it really depends. It depends on like where your business is coming from. But overall, there are some great guidelines of percentages of your gross commission income that you should be spending on marketing, sort of as a category. And then you're going to pull it, segment it down from there into types of marketing that support your core four. So hang in there. We'll get to that one. I wanted to sort of give you an example of like how you can kind of break this down to make it as simple as possible. So let's say that you're an agent that your goal for the year is 20 transactions. And you know that past clients is where the majority of your transactions are likely to come from. So you say like, okay, 10 or half of my transactions are going to come from working with past clients. Charis mentioned this when she said that, I know I need to make calls. I can make more calls. So let's just say in this example that we're making, 25 calls a week. That is over 50 weeks in the year, 1,250 calls a year. Notice I use 50 weeks because there's at least 2 weeks that you're not going to work. If you know that you're going to take 2 months a year off, then I would use, the amount of weeks. I would take 8 weeks off of my 52-week year to account for that. I did, to keep it simple here, just 2 weeks. If you had a 1% conversion rate on your calls, and I use 1% here because that's the general rule of thumb for conversion rate on direct mail. So I'm playing the odds to our favor. So in other words, I'm planning using the philosophy of let's under plan and then over deliver, right? So I would rather use a lower number of conversion and then convert higher than that than use a higher number of conversion and it turned out to be lower. You're building in cushioning to your plan and your business. So that would be 12 and a half transactions. So I know that my plan is to do 10 transactions from my past clients. So I'm already given myself some cushion in my business there. If I know that I want to do 6 referrals from other Compass agents across the country, then I know I need to plan retreats, events, conferences, open houses, office visits, all of those things that we were talking about, and I need to budget for that. And then I need to track, are those referrals happening? And why or why not? So I know where to make adjustments along the way. The last part of this example is handwritten notes. Now, handwritten notes we know are so effective in building that engagement and those relationships. And those handwritten notes may be to my past clients. They may be to other Compass agents that I'm trying to build in my referral network. So there's some overlap between sort of these first two examples, but they all contribute to reaching the goal of 20 transactions. So if I know that I do 10 handwritten notes a week for 50 weeks, I'm sending out 500 notes. Using the same logic, if I convert 1% from that, that's another 5 transactions. My goal was 4. Again, I'm building in a cushioning there. So to boil the system down to consistency and aligning consistent actions in my schedule with the money I spend and then the KPIs of tracking it, I now know I've got to do 25 calls, 10 handwritten notes, and I need to schedule out what I'm going to do to build my referrals for my Compass agents. So you can get very specific with your actions in your business. Does that all make sense? Give me a thumbs up or a... Cool. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So a big, and somebody is off mute. I'll see if I can find them. I think we got them. All right. So the takeaway here is that like simple shifts can have big impacts in your business. If we don't need to overcomplicate things, and a lot of times we do overcomplicate things. I'm trying to find the mute here, guys. Sorry about that. I think I found it. Got it. So we don't need to overcomplicate it. Just work through your core 4 and work through identifying the expenditures and the activities and aligning all of those things. And those small actions will produce oversized results and the impact it will have on your business, not only from a financial perspective, but from the perspective of you feeling like you have control over your business. Like you feel like you have consistent, repeatable, scalable systems in place to help you get to the level that you want to get in your business. And then in closing, I just want to sort of share and underline for you that every decision that you make in your business has an opportunity cost. So when you decide to do X, it means that you're probably not going to be able to do Y. When you decide to do X, it's going to impact how you do Y. So when you're making these decisions, particularly around finances and aligning your spend with your core 4, think of the opportunity cost. And I took a screenshot here, and this is from Compass Business Tracker. So this is the sidebar on the left that you see there. And notice under Business Tracker, you've got several categories. You've got an overview of your business, checklist, my listings, and finances. So notice finances is lit up there in blue. If you haven't gone and looked at the finance section in your Business Tracker, tag that as an action item coming out of today's coaching session, because you want to see what is in there and also leverage that as a tool for you to use in tracking in your business. So that takes us to our action items coming out of today's session. So determine the cost to run your business monthly, weekly, daily. Do the same for your personal life. Track spending and results. Know that ROI, return on investment in the expenditures and the not only the money, but the energy and the time that you're making in the areas of your business. Align all of those spending decisions together and then make adjustments. Think of that wheel. Make adjustments along the way. It's a rinse and repeat. So those are your takeaways. Let me pause, and we've got time for a question or two from anyone. So just hop off mute if you have a question. No questions? All right, you guys are rolling. You're awesome. Continue to have a wonderful week. Thank you for all the great service that you give to all of your clients. You're what make this industry amazing. And we'll look forward to talking with you next time. Take care.